What's up, everyone? Welcome to Positive Works. My name is Sia Nejad. I've got John Garvin with me today, a guy I've known for Johnny? I
Ooh,
think about 30 years now, and
32
was
years, I think.
32 years. Thanks for having the exact figure, John.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But by the way, I know you go by John Garvin, but I think I'm going to still call you Johnny. Is that
Call
okay?
me Johnny. Yeah, that's
All right.
okay. John J. Garvin is the handle, and that's kind of how I introduce myself in corporate settings, which, by the way, I just got out of, which we'll talk about. But Johnny is how my friends and family call me. So, of course, you are family to me.
John J. Thank you. John J. Garvin on social media, specifically Instagram. We'll talk about your
Yeah.
other social media links later on. I'm glad you led with what you led. So, everybody, welcome into the show. But I have to say this. I called you, Johnny, last week, and I said, hey, you know what? Your messaging, what you're doing right now, the type of transitioning that is taking place in your life is really perfect for my audience. I have a free Discord
Yep.
where we talk about motivational and career advice and things of that nature. But obviously, I talk about a lot of this stuff on this YouTube channel and on Twitter and all
Yep.
of those things. And what was so interesting is gracefully said, I'm happy to come onto your show. Thanks for inviting me.
Sure.
But the other thing you said was so incredible from a timing standpoint. You said, actually, this week is my last week in corporate America. And today, the day we're doing this interview, is your first day on your new journey.
Day one of this new chapter, and I'm so excited to spend it with you. What a great way to kick it off, an old friend. But yeah, so I was in corporate America for 27 years. We graduated in 1999. And then, yeah, spent 27 years before you knew it. You're looking at yourself and you're going, wait, never thought I was a corporate guy. I was in banking, I was in marketing, but I'm grateful for the journey, but it never really fit like a glove. And so I knew there was more. And I figured what better way to start the journey that I should have perhaps taken back then than on my 50th birthday. So February 14th, I turned 50 years old. So this transition out of corporate was in motion for many months. And it just came to fruition. Friday was my last day. So no Sunday scaries yesterday. It was all excitement. Now I have a to-do list about 3 pages long because I'm building a brand, which we'll talk about, but there was no Sunday scaries. It was more exhilaration and ready to start this new chapter.
Let's go back to your time at James Madison, your time in the corporate world, because I think sometimes we say, hey, I escaped the corporate world or I'm doing my new thing now. And we leave a negative connotation with that.
Yeah,
And I think, for some people, the corporate world is great, right? Like
absolutely.
that's where they're reaching their potential. That's where they're happy and all of those things. But your experience, just like mine, because I was a lawyer practicing law, as you know, for 13 years,
Yeah,
University of Richmond Law School, all those things.
yeah.
I didn't think that fit like a glove for me either. And now I'm doing hosting and analyst work for CBS Sports and some other places. But I feel like most people think, Johnny, when they get to the age of whether it's 30, 40, or 50, I feel like social norms teach them, hey, bro, it's too late. Or hey, lady, it's
That's
too
right.
late. You can't make that transition now. You have made your decision in college or with your initial career. You can't bounce out of it. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. So
Yeah.
first of all, why did it take you 27 years?
Well, because it's so enticing, right? They get you where they call the golden handcuffs, and you've got the PTO and the benefits and the 401k. And it was great people there, and I did grow and develop a ton of skills. But we met when I was playing in a band, and I always had that part of my creativity and the storytelling and the meeting people and inviting them into a different version of themselves to expand their mind. And I didn't really get to flex that muscle in corporate, although again, I'm very grateful for that period of time. But I think to your point, there's this voice in your head. Well, you've already made your decision. You've got to lock in and you've got to see this thing through. It's your lot in life in a sense. And I think what I tried to do in so many ways in body, mind, spirit, and career was to say, let's flip that script and it's never too late at 50 or whenever to start over. And you are not bound by a story that you once subscribed to. That stories are there for a season, maybe they're for your whole life. But for me, I knew that was a temporary fix. And so at 27 years, I said, I can't play it safe anymore. Now we know corporate America is not really safe, but it almost felt like it was a bigger risk to stay there and to kind of stifle that part of myself that I had already kind of shoved down into the corner. I had different outlets, but not fully committed. And what I wanted to do at 50 was to fully commit in every way. And that meant lifestyle, that meant location, that means how I looked, how I thought, who I hung out with. Let's reinvent everything, almost like a clean slate. And not many people are able to do that, and not many people would be that confident to say I can rebuild at 50, because it is kind of a daunting task, if you will.
And I know you're building a brand, or you've already built a brand, really, but you're also building the Find Your 100 brand. And correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, and we'll talk about that later in the show as well. That is to basically encourage and amplify people to take the path that you're taking, right?
Yeah, in a sense, I think fitness is the front door, or is the easiest way to kind of level up your life. You can say, I weighed 200 pounds, now I weigh 167. I had a 36-inch waist now. So you can see those KPIs. But the other things like confidence, style, charisma, how you carry yourself, how you move through the world, what you attract, those are harder, those are intangible. So the whole Find Your 100 kind of movement or mantra was, for me, something about like, wouldn't it be a damn shame at 50 if I go through my entire life and don't touch my full potential, my 100%? If I just miss that whole opportunity and just settled for what I would say is 70. I think I was living at 70% of my potential. 70% is pretty damn good. You're comfortable, you're taking vacations, it looks successful, but it's dangerous in the sense that, you know, when you put your head on the pillow at night, there's another level. There's something that you just aren't touching, and you know that. Guys know that in their chest. And so I was listening to that voice for a while. I said, you know what? I'm going to touch my 100. And what I found and what I believed is, once you touch your 100, there's no way you can go back to 60, 70, even 80. It feels too good. And so then your tolerance for things that sort of might be hanging around that 60 or 70, you don't want to be drawn back into that. It's tempting, right? So a lot of men live there. I did for 27 years in a number of capacities. But I decided, let's go chase that 100, and it feels amazing.
The tolerance thing is really interesting. I want to touch on that actually a
Yeah,
little later on, because I have a very specific
sure.
question for you first. But when you say tolerance, I think of tolerance for your lifestyle, which of course includes the people you hang out with, the things you
Yeah,
listen to. And I think that's like
absolutely,
the huge trick, because people, whether it's
absolutely.
on social media, whether it's the people that are living in their house, and some of those people don't have negative intentions, right? But they are just inherently negative with respect to you being able to break out to achieve your 100. And it's just one of those things where you gotta figure out how to surround yourself with the right mindsets and the right people. We're going to touch on that in a
Yeah.
second. Actually,
Oh,
go ahead,
okay.
expand upon that real quick. And then, just so you know, my other question is actually pertaining to the last year, you transitioning from the corporate world, like actually making that transition to where you are
Yeah.
right now.
For sure. On the previous point, before you put a pin in that, so I think it's about what the diet, the nutrition, right? What you're eating, but also your environment, your circle, what you're tolerating, in a sense of, even like me, I would get up and I would start listening to a podcast pretty much right away, and I would maybe even read a book right away. And what you're doing is, like, I thought I was learning these things, and this is great input to my mind, but I never gave myself a chance to just sort of be and settle and listen to my own thoughts, which takes a couple of minutes of silence. So instead of going for a walk and listening to someone else's agenda, even if I agreed with it, maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but it was all this input, right? And not my own. So I think you've got to be really intentional about what you're tolerating, what you're putting into your mind and your body. And I think once you start to see improvements there, you're not going to let that stuff back in that doesn't serve your best interest. But to your point, I'll tell you one thing I haven't told anybody. So my wife and I, we were talking about a Garvin gap year. So John J. Garvin, about a year and a half ago, we were doing a remodel on our house. We said, at 50, I'm going to leave corporate America. We've got a nest egg. Let's do a Garvin gap year. We're going to start in Thailand. We'll have my 50th birthday in Thailand. Then we're going to go to Malaysia for 2 weeks. Then we'll do Tokyo, and then so on and so forth for the entire year. We'll put it up on YouTube. She's a little bit, I don't know if she's much of a backpacker. So this is going to be kind of tough for us. It would be comedy and hilarity would ensue with us traveling around the world, my wife, Sarah, and I. So we had this idea, but then as I started to get closer to it, I said, I think I'm trying to escape something. That whole idea of just traveling and going to experience everyone else's environment and their world, it meant something wasn't right here. And so when I made the decision, I'll tell you about the impetus for the change that I made last year. I said, I don't want to escape my life. I want to create a life that I'm proud of, that energizes me, that is of service and purpose to other people. And as soon as I made that switch, Sia, as soon as I started seeing the benefits of the Find Your 100 and getting my body and mind and spirit and charisma right, I said, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay right here and build something. And that desire to run away and explore is gone. Like, my interest in travel is zero right now. So it's kind of an interesting thing as you start to think about how we can delude or distract ourselves from the work that we need to do. And that's what I was trying to do.
Create a life you want to visit instead of visiting
Yeah.
someone else's. That's really interesting.
Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Yeah.
Okay, so from a practical standpoint, because I know a lot of people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, "This all sounds good." You spent, and I was following all your Instagram stuff. You're amazing on Instagram, very inspirational on a very routine and daily basis. Which again, I encourage everybody to follow John J. Garvin on Instagram. But it sounded to me like approximately a year ago, you might have just said this, but on Instagram, certainly you started to say, okay, I am going to start this transition from a practical step standpoint. Again, I know you built somewhat of a nest egg and things of that nature, but if somebody out there was listening to this, let's say whether they had a nest egg or not, and they're like, you know what, I want to tap into my potential too. I know it's not some like easy magic button thing where it's like, oh, just do this and you're going to be good. What are at least some practical steps they can take to either change their mindset or actually change their career?
Yeah, I think the first thing you have to do is, again, listen to the stories you've been telling yourself. Maybe you've assumed some stories or identities that you inherited, right? So go to college and then get a job as a lawyer and do these things, and that's going to make you happy. That's going to satisfy your lot in life. And then all of a sudden you look around and you said, that's not what I want. That's not scratching the itch for me. And I know you were there and I was there, of course. So I think the first thing you need to do is determine your North Star in terms of identity. What kind of man or woman do you want to be? And what kind of habits would build that person? Because if you install the habits without the identity, you're putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. You're not really sure about what this is all for. And so then you kind of look up and nurture that version of yourself. How do you behave on a daily basis? What do you tolerate? Who do you hang out with? What do you eat? How do you lift? What do you do for fun? You have to ask yourself all these questions. And I think so the first thing you have to do is just ask yourself, who am I? Who do I want to become? I think some of the things is get disciplined. I always thought discipline was a 4-letter word. I thought that was the sucker of joy in the universe, and I don't want any part of it. I want to be spontaneous, and I want to move around and be free as a bird. And I did that for a long time. And I was 197 pounds. I was trying to escape my life. I was sort of settling for a career that didn't really match my energy. And so I think discipline is actually one of the most freeing and empowering things you can do, and actually is the highest form of self-love. So what I've learned is, getting up at a certain time, eating a certain way, a certain time, lifting, getting sunlight. So these things that like nurture your body, they're so simple. And our primal ancestors knew this, and we've forgotten in the modern world. But I think you've got to just sort of adapt some of those things that may sound like discipline, but actually allow you to be your best self. So those are just some sort of tactical day-to-day things in addition to finding out who the hell you want to be.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because a lot of times I'll have a conversation like this, but I didn't have the benefit, and I've done, this is probably like my 18th or 19th interview series. It was, by the way, it was under the moniker of Sia Nejad Sports before, but we changed it to Positive Works because it's not really a sports show, right? With that said, a lot of times I'm talking to people and I don't have the benefit of background. In other words, I think I know what their background is. With you, I have the benefit of background. We've known each other for 30 years, and I can speak to the fact that, and by the way, this doesn't mean you were like a bad person before or anything like that, but the version of Johnny Garvin, who everybody loved, by the way. You were my big brother in my fraternity. I was like honored. I was so honored that I'm telling you, I mean, like,
me too.
Thank you. But like the point is you were a great guy then, just like you're a great guy now, but you're different. And what I really appreciate about that is I have the benefit of understanding that, like, oh, this isn't just some guy that's like talking. Like I'm able to see the transition, and I want to impart that confidence that you have in people that are watching the show and listening to the show. And I don't know how else to do it other than asking you these like sort of precise, practical questions.
Yeah, and I think, I thank you for that. And I agree. I had great confidence. It wasn't like I hit rock bottom. It wasn't like I was living a subpar life. You would look at me and again, if I was little Johnny and growing up, I'd say that guy's living his best life. And I kind of thought I was there for a little bit until I started to ask those questions. And I think 70%, and again, I ask this on my Instagram page a lot, like, where are you living? You think you're settling for 50, 60, 70? A lot of guys are saying, I'm settling for 50% of my potential, which is crazy. It's sad. I was saying 70%, but I get it, right? So it's even that, it looks good, but you get complacent. And then you just, at our age, my age, you start thinking you just have to manage decline. Like you've already passed the high water mark of your life. And I'm here to say That is not the case. You can and should peak at 50, 55. You can and should get better looking, more interesting, more charismatic, more stylish. So this whole idea of getting older and just sort of getting love handles and the dad bod, like these are stories that people told us, and we do not have to play them out. We should not play them out.
I think that's such a powerful message. So I do Twitter Spaces every 3 or 4 weeks, and it's a small group, admittedly, that comes in there. But one of the things that I keep coming back to, or it just naturally keep coming back to, because those Twitter Spaces are more of a conversation. It's not just me talking; it's people coming in, asking questions, making comments. Is just not to accept social norms. And you know, I don't really want to characterize social norms as good or bad, but they are norms. They're called norms for a reason, and we just kind of fall into that logic. And I just, you know, you talked about your career and my career as a lawyer, and we defined success as, in my case, being a lawyer, because frankly, that's what my parents thought success was. Excuse me. And so, you know, I'm just kind of falling into that same. And I was lucky.
Exactly right.
I was lucky to get out and do something different. But again, it goes back to social norms and how we define success. We can't define success by what our parents define success as.
That's right. I had a guy today said, "Hey, congratulations on getting out of corporate America. I've been in corporate America 25 years and I'm very satisfied." I said, "That's wonderful. And I want that for everybody." It might be corporate America. It might be being a gymnast. It might be being a swimmer. It might be whatever, rock star. But whatever that thing is that sets your soul on fire, whatever it is and wherever it is, I would encourage you at any age to go after it, and it's not too late. And I think, listen, I agree with what you were saying earlier. This is not an insignificant move for me. I mean, there are pages out there that have just a page on "I quit alcohol after 34 years," which I did. That's their entire page, and that it's a great page. There's so much rich and rewarding value there. Or "I left corporate America and here's what it's like to chase my dream to rent surfboards in Bondi Beach." I know a guy, and that does that. It's like, that's an entire page. Or "I moved cities and here it is. Like, I got in the best shape of my life." I just happen to do all four. I just happen to do all four of those in preparation for my 50th. I don't expect everybody to have, you know, that sort of like, let's see what happens idea and follow through with it. But I think it's super exciting and exhilarating if you do, but pick one of those and then maybe adjust to the other one. So I wouldn't suggest what I've done is maybe the right path for everybody, unless you're just super bold. But pick one of those. Have a serious conversation with yourself about the path you're on and the story that you're living out. And then maybe one of those is the right move for you.
Well, also, isn't it kind of a domino effect? I mean, I guess it's Captain Obvious me saying that, but I think people are really intimidated by, oh, John Garvin's done these 4 or 5 things that are like life-changing. Even any one of them is life-changing. He's done 4 or 5. But the truth is, if you do one of them, whether it's paying attention to your diet and having that be in conjunction with a workout regimen and keeping yourself physically fit, that domino falls. And then all of a sudden, oh, I'm more aspirational. I'm going to do something with my career, and that domino falls. And then all of a sudden you do have 3 or 4 things that you've checked that you didn't think you could accomplish one of them.
And that's exactly right. And that's why Find Your 100 starts with the fitness and sort of the coaching, but there's also a mindset element, because when you get your body right, and you know this, when your mind is focused and disciplined and eating the correct thing and not sliding on the weekends and starting over on Monday, when you get your habits right for, let's call it 100 days, and your body changes, your body changes, but your mind changes, who you become in that process. So then when your body changes, your mind changes, the way you carry yourself, and the world responds to that energy and treats you differently. And that's what you're talking about, because all of a sudden you start making these serendipitous connections. Hey, good to meet you, man. What's going on? There's something I can't put my finger on, but what have you been doing? And I can't tell you, of course, you moved down to Miami, but when I made these changes in myself, the electric sort of current running around my body, and this is for anybody. That's my message. This is available to anybody. That once you do that, the electric current surrounding you, people can see you coming from a mile away. Because again, when you walk around airports or a Target, right, these guys are living at 70%. When you would make that adjustment to live at 90, 100%, people can see you coming a mile away and they want to be in your orbit. And so I think one of the things that I've said is, this is a warm invitation to your best self. This is not an insurmountable or really distant idea. One of the things I do is put up pictures of me from last May, where I was 197 pounds, drinking, inflamed, belly's over here. I thought I was in good shape. But my cheeks are red, and then I show me now, and they say, holy cow, how many years ago was this? And I was like, no, that was like 8 months ago, 7 months ago. And they say, holy cow. Yeah, but you must be on TRT. No, nothing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Peptides, nothing. So they're looking for reasons why it can't apply to them. And so once I say, no, I'm 50, you're only 40, no peptides, all natural, they say, well, shoot, I've run out of excuses now. So my thing is, this is a warm invitation to your best self. So don't talk yourself out of it.
They want the Ozempic answer from you. Again, I'm not criticizing anybody that's doing that necessarily.
Sure.
But like, they want that quick fix answer when they realize that no, it's not, like, it is kind of a quicker fix than maybe you anticipated, but it's just hard work and discipline. And anybody.
But that's sorry to interrupt, but you had something there, because if you skip that step of the mindset and the discipline, then the Ozempic or whatever the shortcut is, and again, there's nothing wrong with it, but who you build, that toughness, that trust in yourself, then you don't get the mindset part of it. And the mindset and the body is what really creates that electric current. And so I think that's an important piece, and hopefully not to be skipped.
I love what you did when you said serendipitous and you air quoted it, because it's really not, right? Like that whole energy that you are not manifesting, the energy that you are creating. I mean, I can speak to that. The whole reason I'm in a host and an analyst position at CBS Sports is because of what my energy was, and people coming to me and saying, hey, you'd be good at this. I got out of law and I actually went to pharma in between, which actually was the bridge to allow me to do pharma and media at the same time, and then to ultimately make the change into full-time media. But the only reason I got that pharma job at a really good dermatology company called Galderma, where people were like fighting to get spots in, I had no experience whatsoever, not even in sales. The reason I got that, Johnny, is because I had a poker buddy of mine in Fort Lauderdale that just really liked me. And we played for years. And he was like, you know what, man, like, your energy is really good. If there was ever an opening he was a manager. If there was ever an opening at my company, I would love for you to work under me, because I think you do great. Turns out I did great. And when I walked into offices, in dermatology offices, all I did was present that energy that you're talking about. I barely knew about the product. Honestly, if I'm being honest, I wasn't the product guy. I was the nice guy that was actually interested in what other people had to say about their families or about whatever it was that interested them. And I was interested in it genuinely. And I was the one winning all the trips and getting all the bonuses because apparently because of my energy, which led me to this position right now.
Well, congratulations. And that doesn't surprise me. You've always had great energy, authenticity, and sharp as a tack in terms of being able to articulate either your question or your expertise. And I did a Instagram reel on this 2 weeks ago, and it was something about basically the secret to being a magnetic man, a man with charisma. And it's one thing they all do, and it's ask questions. And you ask questions because you're genuinely curious. A magnetic man does not sit there and tell stories about himself, about, grabbing an alligator and whatever in Australia. It's like, so tell me more about that. And they're literally genuinely interested in someone else, and the other person feels seen and heard. And that's something I think you and probably I have in common. And I think that's special, and apparently in small supply in the world. And so when you combine an ability to articulate, being curious, and just being a well-rounded great guy, it's like good things are going to happen. But when your body and mind are also tuned in, just look out. Just look out.
So another guy that's doing the same thing you are, Johnny, on this like extremely large scale. I don't know if you're familiar with David Meltzer. He sometimes does stuff in South Florida. I'll have to hook you up with him because an extremely magnetic, popular guy, hundreds of thousands of followers across all social media platforms. He's been doing it for a long time, mind you. With that said, he's been on this show before. And one of the quotes that I remember from him, I think it's his quote. It could be somebody else's that he repurposed, but he said, be interested, not interesting.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
not about
well
you
said.
all the time. Be interested in what other people have to say. It's really important. Let's backtrack to the habits that you had to drop. I am just curious.
Yeah.
What was the hardest thing? Because you talked about now you've got this new diet. You've had to drop alcohol. You're spending a lot of time in the gym. Mind you, you have a wife too, who I think is kind of on board doing the same things you're doing.
Absolutely, which helps a lot.
Yeah. So again, surrounding yourself with the right people. What was the hardest hurdle to climb?
This is going to be just not the answer you want. None of it was hard. And I'm saying that from a person that lost 30 pounds, that gave up drinking alcohol, which I was, Monday, Tuesday night, drinking scotch, drinking a whiskey, really appreciating the different notes and just the vintages. And so, again, I didn't hit rock bottom, but it was one of those things. It wasn't helping me. And I didn't wake up clear headed and certainly driven or motivated. So to give that up after 34 years, I thought was going to be incredibly difficult. Here's a couple things that helped. Because I picked up and moved from Charlotte to Miami, this was a clean slate and an opportunity to reinvent myself in terms of social norms, my behaviors, the guys that I would go watch the game with. So I had a clean slate from which to build a new foundation and with intention. So it really lined up just right. And so being in a new city, I don't associate Miami with drinking. I associate it with wellness, with walking, with lifting. I'll tell you one other quick story. So my third day, we did a 3-week try before you buy. We were looking internationally for our next big place. My wife loves Paris. Who doesn't? We got married in Turkey, which I have a Turkish flag tattoo right here. And so many guys from Turkey are like, hey, are you Turkish? So, but we traveled extensively. We don't have kids. And so we're looking for a place, but nothing Buenos Aires, nothing checked the box completely. There's always some sort of bureaucracy or residency. We said, well, Miami feels like, as you know, South Florida, it's got like a great weather. It's got just this vibe. It's a content creator. It's got all these things going for it. Let's try here. The third day we were down here last May, I met a guy that I followed, Titus Unlimited. And he's a ripped guy. He's a black guy with a bald head and a gray beard. We look like twins, like white guy, black guy, but just twins, except he's shredded. I was 197 pounds. Third day here, I was a little hungover. And I met him. I said, oh, hey, man, what's going on? And he said, hey. So we talked for a little bit. He said, well, come train with me tomorrow. I said, okay. So trained with him those 3 weeks. That was another impetus. Again, that serendipity we talk about, putting yourself, you don't get serendipity when you're sitting on your sofa or drinking in a bar necessarily. You got to get out and expand and explore, and you got to have the right energy and be open to it. So that serendipitous moment changed the course of my life in terms of fitness. It got me to Miami. We said, Miami checks all the boxes. So alcohol was a breeze. Changing my lifestyle into a fitness-oriented lifestyle was a breeze. So I think I'd love to tell you, say, man, I just really grinded it out, white knuckled, and it was tough, and I had my moments, and I doubted myself. From the day it started, I felt so good that there was no way I was going to slide or slip into some of those bad habits. Now, I will tell you, it was difficult to start over with leaving your friends and sort of starting this new journey, essentially on our own. Sarah and I were down here. But one thing I did was I started posting. Just around Miami, I was super excited, started posting about it. This was not my intention to become a content creator, but in so posting all of those stories, men from around the world started reaching out and saying, wait, I'm living at 60%, I'm living at 70%. How do I find my 100? How did you do it? And I went from 800 followers to just over 63,000.
I was just about to ask you that, because I saw how you're following, and for somebody like me, I would dream to have. I mean, that's not like for business purposes, it's good to have a good following. Let's just put it that way. Even for my business, so that's kind of why I appreciate the following. But I have literally I don't even know how many followers I have on Instagram. It's not a lot. It's like probably 1/20th of what you have. So just so I'm clear in terms of how many people are gravitating to your movement, to your cause. You were at about 1,000 followers about a year ago, maybe less.
Under that, yeah. As of let's say November 1st, I was probably at 800. So what's it today? April 13th. So yeah, in what, 5 months or so?
And so 64,000 followers in about 8 months. And all you're doing is essentially posting positive mindset and positive content in general.
That's it. I was really just bored because I was just working out, and I wasn't bored in Miami, but it was like, I'm not going out at night. I was getting up early and doing the right things in terms of my transformation. I said, well, might as well start posting about this. And it just caught on like wildfire. I never expected that to happen. That was not part of the plan. But then when something builds that organically and that authentically, you can't turn your head from it. So I said, okay, there's something here. And I'll tell you something, Sia, what happened was I've been working in corporate for 27 years. Never once in my life did I feel that sense of purpose and being of service, which put a fire under my butt to get up every day, to keep on the journey that I was, to share my tactical tips. Here's when I eat. Every day I post at 12 o'clock. This is my first meal, just to show the discipline. It may seem monotonous. It's beautifully monotonous because the boring things work. Here's what I'm eating. It's 12:05. It's 12:36. It's 1:05. Here's my first meal. So I just share some of those tactical advice, because guys are using it. Thank you so much. What's your second meal? How far do you walk? Do you walk 10,000 steps? Okay, 12,000. I mean, they're eager for this because they see themselves in a 50-year-old guy that didn't look that great 8 months ago. And I feel like it's a warm invite again and a very approachable way. I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not the most muscular guy or best looking, but it's like they can see themselves, I think, in me because I'm just a regular guy.
Is the Find Your 100, like, I know this is something you're continuing to build out and people can get information at John J. Garvin on Instagram, but is that brand, or is that, I mean, ultimately, I guess it would be a business for you, but would it be to have people come in and have you basically coach them through getting to their 100%?
Yeah, that's right. So we actually do a Find Your 100 sort of baseline assessment or a quiz, if you will, on 10 different elements of their life, maybe alcohol, maybe environment, maybe circle, maybe diet, career, family life. It's how we looking. And so I had a guy, I thought he was going to be like a 75, 80, he scored himself a 52. So we kind of get that baseline up front, look for the soft spots and say, okay, well, these are the things we're going to attack. Maybe it's the steps, sunlight, diet, whatever it happens to be. At the end of 100 days, we'll see where you are. Hopefully you're at 100 or on your way to getting there. So it is one-on-one coaching, but I'll tell you the vision that I have as I'm building now, today being my first day out of corporate America. So we're building a community. We're building sort of a subscription-based model, whether it be tips and tactics, newsletters, and the mailing list. We'll sign up for the mailing list. So there'll be a lot of different avenues to get value, and I'm just now building those behind the scenes now. So I think in 100 days, we'll be ready to officially launch. But it's super exciting. Again, to be of service is like, it's a feeling on a scale that I never anticipated, and it's already so rewarding. So I'm just super driven to kind of make this as big of a platform as I can.
I think the be of service thing is so underappreciated. And the
Yeah.
coolest thing about it is if you put yourself in a position to like do the things, tackle some of the things that you're tackling, Johnny, then you put yourself in a position to actually be of service and feel what that reward is like. Like I'm trying to help people, again, on a smaller scale than you, to basically be in your position or my position, whatever position they want to be in,
Yeah.
so that not just so that they can achieve what they want to achieve, but that so they can be of service to other people. Because to me, that's
yeah.
actually the end game.
Absolutely. And again, I go back to wouldn't it be a damn shame if you went through life and you just never went for it? Just go all in, change jobs, move cities, change your circle, quit drinking, whatever it happens to be, whatever those things are that you've been just fearful to adjust and you kind of accepted, just go for it once in your life. This is not a dress rehearsal. We get one chance at this thing. We're all making our way through it. So why not just be bold and go for the damn thing? And I love that attitude. And I just love the response, the messages from people, the people that are teaching me. It is truly a community. Now, the problem or the challenge has been I'm just messaging these guys and some ladies just all around the world, getting different inputs and ideas. I want to create a community where everybody can experience that and kind of find value in that. Right now, it's just me on my phone going, oh, that's fascinating. Or here's this guy, he's reaching out again. I want everybody to have access. So that's what I'm building behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, whatever you build, if it involves more people that you need, man or woman power, I'm calling dibs. I want to be a part of this experience as well.
And I want you in. I want you in for sure.
Let me ask you something that I ask before I close any of these conversations. You talk about gratitude a lot on your IG page and just in general. In fact, I think one thing you said recently was you wake up with you try to wake up with gratitude and optimism. Like you thank you for what you have, and you go into the day saying, hey, today's my day. I think that's actually the exact quote.
Yeah, that's right.
So on the gratitude note, this is something I ask every guest. Can you give me 3 people that you'd like to thank for putting you in the place that you are right now?
Okay, so I would say, of course, my first and foremost, my wife, Sarah, and I always joke, we've been together, since 2009, 2010. And so I always say I've been married to 10 or 12 different women. Some I've loved more than others, but sometimes I'm like, oh, this one's good. I hope she sticks around. And the joke is all around the fact that she's always evolving. She's pushing herself. She's a small business owner that has built her design brand, and we're expanding into Miami. And I just see her sacrifice and toil and just like grind it out through tenacity and charisma. And I'm just like in awe of what she brings to the table through every version of herself. And she's constantly pushing. And she always supports me. And she supported me when I was at 70. And you know what? She married me at my 100, so she deserves the 100 version of me, which is another reason I wanted to do this. So I'm glad to finally thank her for her patience, but also deliver the 100% version of myself. So I would also thank Titus. I would thank Titus because that serendipitous meeting, he was a guy that we're still very good friends, and we were just texting earlier today, and we still train together. He was the guy that shifted the trajectory of my life, and he kind of represents this expansion into Miami and my new Find Your 100 persona. And so he really kicked me in the butt right when I needed it. He even said, I think early on, you need to lose, I think you can probably lose about 25 pounds. And I was offended. I said, I can't believe you would say that. I mean, we don't even know each other that well. Well, I lost 30 pounds. So he was underselling it. And so anyway, I would say Titus. And then lastly, I just saw her last week. I would say my mom. My mom, who is an amazing woman, but she always says, she said to me this weekend, she goes, I remember the day you were born, you had magic in you. You had magic in you then, and you do now, and you're finally listening to yourself because people want to be around you because of that magic. And we just had a moment, so she always believed in me. And again, I got to thank her for that.
That's pretty great. I mean, John, anybody that's known you, whether it's this version or previous versions of Johnny Garvin, knew that you had magic. I mean, listen, we can regale about stories at the D Hall with anytime you'd show up to the lunch or the dinner table, everybody's just waiting for you to talk because you were just always so interesting and funny and charismatic and all those things. So for you to lead a charge like this, I think has just tremendous value. So one other thing, you're welcome. I didn't want to not say this quote. It was one of your best advice quotes. I have a quote that I love, and I think that it's tailored for what we're talking about. It's not my quote. This is a quote I've heard. If you think the price of winning is too high, wait until you see the bill for regret. And I do think if you're not going to find your 100, you later on, whether it's 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now, you're going to say, oh man, I could have done that. And I decided not to pursue it. The quote I wanted, and you can respond to that if you want. The quote I liked from your IG page was, spend so much time on self-improvement that you have no time to criticize others. Your response to either of those?
Yeah, I think that first quote is beautiful. I've heard it before, and I think that's something that was in the back of my head, and that was something that was a driving force for me. And I was talking to my sister when this whole thing started, when I came up with the Find Your 100. Well, all right, I'll tell you the story of this. So there's two reasons or two ways that this came about. John Mayer has a quote or a viral clip about he was so drunk or hungover after Kanye West or Drake's birthday party that on the third day of his hangover, he looked at himself and said, all right, John Mayer, how much access to your potential do you want versus to have fun? Do you want 60% of your potential and then 40% for fun, or 70-30? And he said, no, I want access to 100% of my potential. Then a completely different story. I'm talking about with my sister about perhaps quitting alcohol. And I said, wouldn't it be a shame if we go through life and never find our 100 and find our true baseline? She said, find it and honor it. I said, find it and honor it. 100, find it and honor it. Your 100, find your 100. Bam. That's how I put those together. And I think the sentiment that quote speaks to is that it's there. It's available to you. And so take the opportunity to find it.
Absolutely love it. I think we can, I'll say this. I want to put a pin in it there because I kind of want to bring you back, whether it's 100 days or 200 days at some
Let's do it.
Because I want to hear more. I want to hear more about Find Your 100, especially as you continue to build it out. Johnny Garvin, John J. Garvin on Instagram, any other social media channels or outlets they can find you?
TikTok, Find Your 100, and I think YouTube as well. So those channels we're building out now. I was singular focused on Instagram for a while, but we are expanding.
All right. So follow Johnny everywhere as this continues to get built out. Johnny, thanks for coming on to the show. I mean, this is so cool for me. I mean, for us to kind of like get back together, but also get back together under this sort of context is just super cool. So I appreciate you spending the time with me, and I can't wait to do this again.
It's really special to see you. Thank you so much, Sia.
No problem. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Positive Works. That's Johnny Garvin, aka John J. Garvin. Go give him a follow and follow this YouTube channel because we've got a lot of content coming your way. Appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next time on Positive Works.
All right.